What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now Plus. I'm Alex. In this video, I kind of want to just wrap up a couple of news stories that came out today. Set the scene really for tomorrow with the backdrop here of the Game Awards. That is part of it. But it was kind of a busy day, and I imagine tomorrow morning even maybe starts busy. Maybe we get a leak or two ultimately before the show starts, right? So specifically on the Game Awards, it's not like one thing in particular. It's more like just the conversation around it. It feels like every insider, I think, except for Tom Henderson. I think Tom Henderson actually has made fun of the other insiders for saying stuff, but you got Jeff Grubb, you got Shinobi, you got Jason Schreier. You have pretty much all of the usual suspects except for Tom Henderson, all saying like this is going to be a show to watch. Jez Corden even, right? Like anybody with influence that has known things in the past has talked about the Game Awards being like a really big one. There's gonna be a couple announcements there that are, whether, I guess, depends on the person, right? Like Schreier talked about like the two big announcements. Everybody else, I think Shinobi talks kind of specifically about PlayStation, that PlayStation is going to be worth watching or paying attention to for the Game Awards, but just generally, like, this thing's going to be big. Now, it's very important to kind of like set your own expectations. I think that would kind of be one of the first counters to it, right? Where it's like, well, it's always hyped up. To be fair, to be honest, Jeff Keighley hypes it up normally, and he has hyped it up a little bit, but honestly, for what it's worth, just for my own opinion, I feel like he normally is more cocky than this. He normally has announced more things heading in than he did for the Game Awards, and he also just generally thinks like these shows are all really, really massive. Sometimes they are. Like I have liked Jeff Keighley shows in the past, and I think he's had some really good ones. He's also had some terrible ones that he also has hyped up. So I understand, and I get it. I think I get it just from the sense of like you don't want to expect too much. You're just going to get disappointed, right? Like if the thing you want is not there, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure. I get that, and I also get that these things have been hyped up before. I guess what makes me excited is who's hyping it up. In the past, it has been hyped up, but it's normally hyped up by Jeff Keighley, and he actually is not the main driver of the expectations now, right? It's more like kind of everybody else thinking it's going to be big. Now, honestly, maybe he just learned from the past and said, well, I'll tip off some insiders. I'll tell Schreier Resident Evil is going to be there. I'll tell Jez Corden that Fable is going to be there. I'll tell Jeff Grubb, right? Like, maybe you got to think, like, how do these people know, right? There's got to be somebody on the inside. Now, I'm not saying it's necessarily Jeff Keighley. Maybe it's somebody that works in the lighting department for Jeff Keighley. Anybody, right? But these people clearly, I think, know something. I feel like they almost know the same thing. I feel like they know the couple big announcements, and that's why everybody's kind of saying, like, if Wolverine's there, I feel like they all know Wolverine's there. If Tomb Raider or Resident Evil's there, I think they know that. Just the way that they're speaking, it feels like they all got a memo of like a list of games and said, keep your mouth shut, don't talk about the games, but tell people your thoughts, right? Like, are you excited for these games? And I think that's what we're seeing. So just a little self-promotion, even though it's on my own channel, for a different channel. Remember, tomorrow I will be co-streaming this entire event. I'll be live about hour before the show starts. The live stream's already ready on the channel. If you on Podcast Now, if you just click it, hit notify me. I got a bingo board ready to rock, and it's a pretty darn good one. And I also am going to announce all of the categories in my Game Awards. I got my Game Awards in 2 weeks from now that I'll be doing a live stream kind of special event on Podcast Now. I'm going to tell you guys my categories, which are, I think, pretty cool and pretty different from the Game Awards. And then, well, really, I want to talk about the Astro Bot thing in terms of like the recap stuff. Astro Bot tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow night is when Astro is getting that winter-themed level. So this doesn't seem like it's a speedrun level. This seems like it's just a legitimate level that you would have played in Astro Bot. Winter-themed, looks beautiful in the very small, glimpse that we actually got to see it. Here's hoping, and I did see other people talk about it too, Sweet Tooth. He's one of, you got Assassin's Creed and things like that you absolutely can do, and that is probably still coming at some point, but Sweet Tooth is another one that hopefully is in there, or should be in there, has kind of been teased in that concept or whatever it was, and then obviously never appeared in the base game. And then last thing, and I swear I'm not like just picking PlayStation, specific topics, but the other like one thing that happened, I would say today, that it's worth talking about. This tweet, I'll just read it here from Hazador Gaming. Screenshots for Sony Bend Studio new IP in development title has been revealed. Reportedly, they're developing a new IP focused on live service. And if you find that tweet, or you just maybe search it online, I'm sure some of the PlayStation sites specifically have it too. You can look at the pictures, and here's the thing. Here's what I tweeted. Like, it's not a surprise that it's live service. We've actually heard that before. When PlayStation, I think under Jim Ryan, when they had that presentation, I mean, they have a lot of presentations, but there was one in particular that they broke down the studios into kind of divisions or categories. And there was one that was kind of a mix, right? Like it would do multiplayer / live service, but also kind of not at the same time. And Bend was in that list. And I think I think Gorilla maybe also was in there. That's kind of what you're seeing. Now, does that mean a good thing? I mean, the scary thing to me is just maybe it's because of Concord, but like when PlayStation, I think, fails at these things, they fail really epically. And I don't want that. I like Days Gone. I actually like it quite a bit. And I think they should have just made a Days Gone 2. I mean, we've talked about that 1,000 times, but I'm not opposed to new IPs. But when you do a new IP that's also a live service, and those pictures, look, they're only pictures, and I think they're from 2022. So they're 2 years old, maybe even 3 years old. You know, they don't give you too much, but they also kind of give you the sense of this is a game like everything else, right? Like you see the guns with the stats, and it's just like any other thing that we've seen before, right? Like military, I mean, it'd be funny actually if it was like a zombie type thing, like a Days Gone open world. I mean, a Days Gone like MMO or, Days Gone live service game actually wouldn't be that terrible of an idea. Now, it's not Days Gone, right? It is a new IP, so it's not going to be that, but just like Horizon and Horizon multiplayer actually, I think being an okay idea. I think Horizon works with cooperative elements. Yeah, this Days Gone also, could you do that with Days Gone? Yes. I don't know. I kind of just go back to, I'm not writing it off. There's very few games I ever write off, like, period. I mean, I think I have enough evidence to support that, but I do get worried. And I don't think, I've talked about live service 1,000 times, and for me, it's like, I know you need to have them. I know you need a couple successful ones. It just feels like a bold move, but at the same time so safe, right? Because it's kind of a relic of, well, every game needs to be live service, right? So in that way, it's actually just a part of the norm, right? But the bold part is like, well, Days Gone actually did quite well. It got destroyed review-wise when it first came out, but it ultimately, as we've talked about so many times, it sold really good, like enough for a sequel. And it's getting like one of the movies or shows or whatever that PlayStation is doing, Days Gone's one of them. So like, it clearly was popular enough to kind of spin it off into other things. Obviously, everything broke down, and it is a bold choice in that way. It's a bold choice to do this. And I guess I would applaud them for like half a second, but then you remember, oh yeah, if this thing fails, it really could be like the death of them, because like I said, I mean, I don't know. I feel like for PlayStation and even Xbox, like when you have these huge publishers, you go big or you go home. And if it's a thing like live service or really if it was a AAA single player game and it sold poorly, it would get destroyed as well, right? Like it's always extremes. And I think that's partly the internet, but also partly like these companies are so big that it is just one way or the other, right? Like a Concord either somehow worked or somehow works, or it completely fails, and it completely fails, right? An Astro Bot either like is not gonna work or it is gonna work, and there's I don't know. I just feel like there's not a whole lot of room in between. Even like Indiana Jones for Xbox, that game is either gonna do well on Game Pass or it's not. It's gonna reach the numbers they are looking for or it's not. There's not really like a gray area, and I feel like it's the same thing here. This is either gonna be like Helldivers level of success, which I would say is very unlikely, or it's going to be a complete failure that could very much lead to like huge problems with the studio. And I just don't see why you want to put yourself through that. And it's because it's a relic of 5 years ago. They started making this game when that was still the strategy. Make your games live service. PlayStation make like 30 live service games. This was part of that, and it survived. It survived the Last of Us factions being canceled. It survived Spider-Man being canceled. All of these live service games from big PlayStation studios, they all got canceled. This game didn't, right? So maybe that means maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's not. I mean, you got that fair game money symbol that probably is also going to completely fail. So games that are not good can also sometimes make it through the cut and not get cut and still come out and be bad. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think that's it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.